morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome back. Welcome back to another PorscheCooled Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things Porsche. Steve is going to join us shortly from Australia. Those of you who have been following us and listening to our podcast regularly, and I know there's a lot of you now, Steve and I chat through Zoom. Steve is my mate from Sydney, Australia, who owns a 997 GT3. So Steve will be online soon. In the meantime, I just want to say welcome. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. This podcast is obviously available everywhere: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, pretty much everywhere, every podcast platform you can find us. I also put this podcast up on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Michael Barth, where I talk about have been talking about my story, my 997 Carrera, as well as watches and things like that. If you're interested in watches, check that one out. And also we have the PorscheCooled Instagram. Come over, say hello, and give us a follow. That would be fantastic. All right, so let's get Steve on the line. It's evening in Sydney, Australia. It's morning here in Bahrain, where I'm based at the moment. So let's get Steve and start chatting all things Porsche. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast. Steve is here. Hi, Steve.
Hi, mate. How you going?
I'm well. I tell you what,
That's
the one
good.
thing that's nice about living in Bahrain is that it's always sunny.
It is always sunny. Yeah. Does it actually ever rain?
Yeah, it does rain, and when it rains here, and I think I might have said this to you once before, but when it rains here, it is it floods very easily because there's not a lot of drainage. You know what I mean? Because of the sand, they don't really have. There's not really curb and guttering systems and drainage. So it actually floods a lot. Yeah, so it floods really easily, but the sunny weather is great. I've been sitting around the pool here and going to the gym, so it's actually been quite good.
Cool.
All right, so the PorscheCooled Podcast always starts with my COVID update, so we're going to have the COVID update.
COVID cold, yeah.
The COVID update is I just went. We started recording this podcast a little bit later today because I had to go and do my what they call an exit test, Steve. The exit test is.
That doesn't sound promising, mate. Does that involve a big long rubber glove?
Yeah, they're all in their full hazmat or whatever gear you call that, the protective gear. But it's in the exhibition center here in Bahrain, which is actually very near where we live, and they've got a drive-through testing center. Yeah, so
people pay to watch you get tested?
Yeah, no.
With a big rubber glove? This is getting worse by the second.
No, it's actually, I have to say Bahrain is pretty organized. You know what I mean? Like they're actually very organized the way they do it. It's on an app, and because you have an identity card here, it's like, you know, your number is you, so they know who you are. Literally, when you check in, you get a message on your phone straight away that you've already done the test, but you're still waiting in the queue because you go through these tents, and then you go to a window where there's like a nurse, and then she takes all your information. You give her your ID cards, your CPR cards, they call them here. And then you get checked off, and then you drive through a little bit. You just drive through like one car space, and then the doctor comes out. But I have to tell you, you know, from my last story last week about getting the long stick stuck up your nose, this one literally took, I'm not kidding, this one literally took, it's still a stick, and you have to look up and look at your light on your, you know, on your roof of your car, because you don't get out of the car, you sit in the car. And it literally took...
I just have to keep putting bad innuendo in. This is better than bending over.
Yeah, true. And it looked like, you're right. And it, you know, I was getting nervous before it. I was saying to Tasha, you know, I don't want to do this. You know, my throat is drying up because of the thought of the airport one. But literally, it was so much easier. And you literally just look up at the roof of your car, and then they do it. And he was really quick. And I had to say to him, I said, this was so much better than the airport. You know, the airport one, I said it was painful. My eyes watered. He said, that's because they're not doctors. So, unfortunately, it seems that the ones at the airport, when you get off your flight in Bahrain, they're like volunteers.
They're just random
woman
people.
just kept sticking it up further and further because she thought she was going to miss something, which she actually said to me. And this guy was so much easier. So at least that's done now, and then hopefully the results are negative, and the results will come through in the next few days. Because, you know, we just found out that our building in London, that our concierges in London, half of them are all COVID positive. They got tested and they're COVID positive just after we left. So it was a bit of a worry, thinking, oh, you know, maybe you've come in contact with it, because, you know, I talked to the guys there. And so hopefully it comes through negative. Hopefully we'll have the result in a few hours. So I'm sure it will. I don't feel sick, so that should be okay.
Maybe the airport people are the janitors just kind of earning some extra cash on the side.
No, they literally they just get volunteers. I mean, they're volunteers. They're not Indians or Filipinos or anything like a lot of the workers here. They're actually no, they're actually
that, mate.
yeah, no, but because a lot of because they're still Arabs, they're still Bahrainis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But why can't I say that? That's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything bad. I've got friends who are Filipinos here. There's nothing wrong with
No.
Indians.
In Sydney, they've set up like lots of drive-through ones as well. Like you just kind of drive around and then you sort of notice a little sign by the side of the road, and they've set up drive-through things in car parks.
Right. No, look,
I've still not had the need to be tested, but I'm assuming it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. Well, look, Bahrain is fantastic. They really do have it set up well. But the last week I've been driving in Bahrain, and like I've only been away from Bahrain for what? I went to London 6 weeks in London, 7 weeks in London where I wasn't driving. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. I tell you, I really have had a couple of near misses this week, and I just don't understand, like, people just cutting across 3 lanes in front of you, no indicator. It's like dodgem cars. It really is. I feel like I'm on a motorcycle and I have to look in every direction. I'm always like when I used to drive my bike and like always watching.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
back in your motorcycling days.
Yeah, I thought about I should get another one actually. I thought about that too, but then I thought no, maybe not. I don't know if I have any listeners from Bahrain. It doesn't show up on stats. I probably don't. But I'm not saying anything bad about Bahrain. I don't have a problem at all.
Possibly a good reason for that.
But maybe, I don't know. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. Anyway, PorscheCooled stories, Steve. It seems like everyone's been enjoying the 2 that we've done so far. Especially Nick's ones actually. Nick's one's actually been more popular than the second one, which was with James, which is interesting. But that could just mean that Nick's one's been up for longer. But I'm sure Nick will be happy about that when he's listening. People seem to enjoyed his PorscheCooled story. Cool. So I'm trying to tie up some new people. I just didn't have the time to do it, and that's why we didn't have one the Tuesday just gone. But as I said, Steve, it's not going to be every Tuesday. It's a lot of work to get 2 podcasts up in a week, and as well as doing a day job that you and I do. And this is what we do as a passion on the side. Like I said, it's something we're trying to keep going, but we do have to do our day job. So that's why I couldn't get one up. But I have been on my DMs on Instagram, and I have been talking to people. So hopefully I've got 2 people lined up already, another 2. And hopefully another one, which is that I messaged today. So hopefully all going well, I can record that in the next few days, and that'll be up next Tuesday. So that's happening. And also, as you know, PorscheCooled, you can join PorscheCooled membership on Patreon. I'm not going to do this very long because I know it's boring if I do it every episode, but I do this because I want to do a shout out to a new member. But we do have Patreon we do have PorscheCooled membership on Patreon. You just go to patreon.com and you search PorscheCooled. It'll come up straight away. US $5 a month, and you receive benefits such as 24-hour early access to all episodes. You get a shout out in the next podcast, and you'll get an invitation to upcoming live streaming Q&A chats, video chats that are going to be planned when we have some more members. Maybe when we get over 50 members, we'll do that, but not at the moment. And also, I just wanted to say, PorscheCooled exclusive is what I've called that $5 tier. It's limited to 300 members. I may introduce a higher tier than that in the future, but at the moment that's the highest tier. So that's where we're at. But anyway, I just want to say hello and thank you to the new member, which is Marcus. Marcus has been a long-term subscriber to my YouTube channel. He also follows PorscheCooled on Instagram because he's always sending me comments and likes to things. So I want to say thanks to Marcus. Marcus joined PorscheCooled exclusive as well. So now we have 4 members, Steve, on Patreon, 4 PorscheCooled members.
Okay, Marcus. Cool.
And the other thing I found during the week, which I sent you the link, Steve, was for that book. And it's called the Porsche Effect Book, which is from the exhibition that was held in the Peterson Museum in LA. I was actually trying to search out, how I came across that is I was trying to search out for the poster, because the illustration of that exhibition that was done for Porsche's 70th anniversary for the 9/11 70th anniversary or whatever in 2019 or 2018, whatever it was. There was a poster, and I was trying to search out the poster, and then I came across the book on the Peterson Museum's shop, which was $100 US down to $30 US, which I sent to you. But unfortunately, the shipping anywhere out of the US is $100, as you noticed as well. Otherwise, I would have bought it.
It was like 119 US to kind of ship it to Sydney. And it's like, I'm out.
Yeah, I actually even put in 2 to the cart and checked for Sydney to see if the shipping wouldn't change, but the shipping actually went up to 200. So
bloody hell!
Because I thought we could just send 2. But it's a really good book. If you're in the US, go to the Peterson Museum's museum shop, because seriously, it's a signed limited edition for that Porsche Effect exhibition, and it's I've seen inside the book. I actually found a review of it, and it's actually a really, really good book. But like you said, for that much shipping, it's a lot. But I guess the book is $70 US off. But anyway, that's just something I came across, and we're always looking out for
Peterson
new books.
Museum. The Peterson Museum's also ramping up their kind of YouTube presence too. I think they're doing lots of videos.
Yes, they are. Because the Peterson Museum is, and I can't think of the guy's name, he's Bruce Meyer. Bruce Meyer has a lot to do with it. And Bruce Meyer is the guy that owned Steve McQueen's 356 and then sold it back to Steve McQueen. You know, actually, I heard an interesting story the other day. Did you listen to the Spike's Car Radio where he had Rob Schneider on?
Yeah, I did.
And it was very interesting. And I don't understand because, you know, I think Spike's great and Zuckerman, but it's weird how he didn't actually know that Rob Schneider said, he asked him if he owned a Speedster. And then he said, did you own the 58 blue one? And he said, no, I own the 55 black one. And the 55 black one that Rob Schneider owned was actually Steve McQueen's Speedster, the one that he bought before the one that Bruce Meyer bought and then resold back to Steve McQueen. So he actually had the earlier one. And I thought it was very funny.
I remember that sort of moment in the podcast, but I'm not familiar enough with the cars that they're sort of referring to.
But what I thought was interesting is I don't really like Rob Schneider. I find him annoying in his movies and everything. But in that podcast, I thought he was actually okay. And then he said he'd sold it because someone in China had basically, like, Spike said, where is it? And he said in China offered him so much money that he couldn't, like, he couldn't resist.
Yeah.
But
Zuckerman says the same thing. There's sort of like a price. Everything has its price, basically, and he'll let it go if you kind of give him enough money.
Well, if you love it, you love this 356 Speedster so much. But if you paid, $500, I think the cheapest Speedster you can buy is something like $500,000 US, by the way. Even if you want a Speedster now, I think it's that high. If someone offered you $1 million for a car you paid $500,000 for, well, you'd seriously have to consider selling it, wouldn't you? Because you could find a new one which you probably love just as much, or something else you'd love just as much.
It's just funny at that sort of money too. I think we've kind of touched on it before. Like if it gets to that kind of cost, you'd just be too kind of scared shitless to drive it, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? And I think that's what Nick Murray's getting a lot of flack about with that 993 convertible he's got. But he says he doesn't want to fix the paint up because he just wants to drive it. He just wants to be like a daily driver. And it's kind of true, isn't it? I know when I drive even the Audi here, I don't care. Like I run into things and bump into things and curb the gutter, and I don't care about it. I don't know if I'd be the same if it was an old Porsche, though. I still think I'd be a little bit precious, even if it had a lot of patina and markings. I don't think I'm not normally that sort of person. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I kind of thought that, strangely, most, and maybe it's a different conversation, but I reckon most car enthusiasts, like, it doesn't matter if it's a $200,000 GT3 or a $20,000 Golf. Every kind of car I've owned, or like my partner's owned sort of thing, like I still wind up kind of treating it the same way, with a lot of care and mechanical sympathy and all of that sort of stuff. But I guess that's slightly different from the first world problem of driving a 250 Ferrari short wheelbase around. Like you probably want to drive the guts out of it because it's such a fun car, but then it's worth so much that you're too scared to kind of do it.
But imagine driving a $30 million car. You'd be just too scared.
Yeah, no.
Even a Pagani or something like that, you'd be too scared. See, my thing about keeping things clean and whatever, it started early. Even when I had my push bike when I was a kid, I used to wax my push bike. I used to polish the paint on my push bike. My push bike was the shiniest in the street. You know what I mean? I was just like that.
So, speaking of Paganis, did you see that little clip of GT2 RS on a track in Italy, and it took out I think it was a Huayra. I don't think it was a Zonda, a Pagani.
Really?
Looked like a private track day, and it looked like the GT2 possibly lost its brakes or whatever, but it went straight into the side of the Huayra, like massive crash.
No, I didn't see it. I have to do a search.
Yeah. It's the guy in the Huayra, like obviously it's from a distance, you couldn't see anything, so you're just reading body language, but he looked very accommodating, very understanding, sorry. Yeah, like didn't want to kind of, throw punches or anything like that. Not like the other thing that happened in the news. Did you see the go-karting thing?
No.
Look it up. It happened yesterday or the day before.
A go-kart fight?
I think a go-kart championship, and somebody ran some guy off the road, so he waited till the guy came back around and he threw like a bit of his go-kart at him.
Really?
Yeah, really
crazy.
dangerous. And then at the end of the race, he I think his dad kind of went him as well. Like,
wow.
So everybody's been calling for lifetime motorsport bans for him, but I think he's actually kind of
road
quit.
rage in the
go-kart.
Massive
road rage, road rage. Anyway, sorry.
I know people's temper. I mean, I think a lot of people are on edge at the moment as well. It probably doesn't help.
Yeah, true.
The situation.
A lot of pent up.
People are all pent up, trying to act like everything's right and things aren't right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to Porsche. The other thing I just wanted to mention is there's a channel on YouTube called 911 South. The guy does videos about his 911 journey, I guess. He shoots them quite well, actually. The footage is quite good. He had a 993. He bought a 993. I'm not sure how long ago, and he's documented most of the work he did to it, Steve. He put like rough wheels on it. He stripped out the front. He changed the front aero to like the turbo aero. I think it's just a 993 Carrera he had manual.
Yep.
But I was interested. I watched a video last night, and I just said to you earlier, I watched a video, and he's actually sold that 993 because he wanted to have an air-cooled. I think he had a 996 cab before that. He bought a 993, and now he's sold the 993. He's bought a 991 Carrera S. But he's going to do, I just want to tell the listeners, because he's going to do a whole build series on it. And I think you should check it out, because I think it might be quite interesting, especially if you're interested in a 991 and what you can do to a 991. And he's going to, I think he's going to cover all the options that he's going to do to it. And he's going to do a lot to it. He likes to do things to his car, to his Porsche.
Yeah, right.
So that's 911 South, which is a good name. 912s, as I just told you, I've been doing some stupid research, and my problem is I don't want to spend all my cash on a 912. And you're talking about, even getting one from the US. And there's a really, really good green one at European Collectibles where Jerry Seinfeld has bought his Porsche from before. I think the Porsche that ended up being a fake or something was wrong with the thing. I think that's the dealer, European Collectibles. I don't think it was a fake, but it's that dealer in the US. And they've got a really nice...
There's no way Jerry Seinfeld's going to sell a fake.
No, he bought it off European Collectibles, and then did you hear that story? He sold the... No. I don't know the whole story, so I probably shouldn't talk about it. And Jerry Seinfeld sold it on to someone else, and then someone else said it wasn't. Yeah,
that's all I'm talking about. Yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
But I don't know the ins and outs of the story. But apparently the car originally came from European Collectibles. That's where Jerry Seinfeld bought it from. They have some great cars, actually. It's a good site. You should check it out. It's nice just to look at them. I mean, they got some nice ones. They had an orange RS on there a while back. But they've got an Irish green 912. I think it's a 68 model. The 69 model is better because the 69 model is long wheelbase where the wheels were shifted back 2.5 inches, so it gives it better handling, which was also done on the 911 as well. But it was originally an ivory color. It's really, really nice, and it's got like houndstooth Pepita inserts, and it's the 5-speed, not the 4-speed, but they want $63,500 US for it, so it's quite expensive,
What's that? 120?
That's 88,000 Australian dollars. But then when you bring it in, you've got to pay the shipping, which is only about 5,000, 6,000 duty and luxury car tax. And I found a calculator online. It adds 20K to the car. So that 912 will land in Australia about 108. It lands at about 108,000. And then they always say allocate 4,000 to 5,000 just to get it compliance with your Porsche specialist, right? So it's about 113K. So that brings me back to that sand beige one, which has reappeared on car sales in Australia, which was originally selling for 82.5, and now he wants 92.5. But on another side, it's actually advertised for 89. That's a 5-speed. That's matching. You know, it makes that one look kind of good value. Like if you could get that one for 86, Steve, or a little bit less, it's kind of good value because it is very original and it's in very good condition. It's a New York car.
Where is he? In Melbourne?
Yeah, he's in Melbourne. I contacted him ages ago. I don't want to waste his time now, but I did look into the possibility of getting finance because I don't want to spend all my cash on it. Not in this time. So I looked into the possibility of getting finance, but my situation is very difficult because I live in Bahrain and I want to get a car loan in Australia. So see what happens with that. I don't know if I'll go forward with it, but I just wanted to check it out. The other one, just keep on the 912 for a second. The other one I found is a 1969, which is the year that I want, but it's a 4-speed. It's not a 5-speed, and that's in UK. It's 39,000. The guy uses it as a daily driver. It's daily driven. He's done a lot of mechanical work to it, but the interior is pretty messed up. That's kind of the one that if you bought it, you'd want to just send it to Gary at Classic FX or something, maybe, and get him to redo the interior, or, you know, you just bring it straight back into Australia and it goes to Pro Stitch. But that's even that, you know, landed, even though it's only £39,000 if you pay the list price, landed with shipping and everything, it's about 82.5. So it's getting up near to the sand beige one. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the fact that you have to deal with all that rubbish about dealing with customs and making sure your car's insured properly and waiting for the shipping, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of work, you know, when the price is almost close to the one in Melbourne, the sand beige, which will probably sell. Yep. I know a lot of people don't like sand beige. I actually like the color.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, but it's matching color, as you can see. It's like all, you know, documented. But the thing is, I would be tempted to change the interior to black. I would, and you can do it. You can do it with parts from like Sierra Madre or whatever it's called, and the other one. They do have covers for the seats, but I don't know, maybe like Pro Stitch or someone like that in Sydney and changing the interior to black. Then it wouldn't be matching because on the spec sheet it's obviously tan leather interior. But if you redid the carpets, redid the seats, redid the door cards, and just make it a black interior, which is what Zuckerman has. He has a 911 in that color with black interior, the sand beige with the black interior.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's got a sand beige one, doesn't he? Didn't realise the interior was black. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the color. Don't you love the color? I think it just looks like...
I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it. It
looks like that classic 911 color. I don't know. It's not... I mean, like if you were to buy... It's
period correct.
Yeah, it's period correct, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's kind of like you just look at it and it's right. It's just right.
Yep.
It's like that, the 356. I'm not a fan of 356s. I don't know. I find them too old. But there's one on Beverly Hills Car Club in black, a 356C, so the latest one, Steve. And it's in black. And it's got red interior, and it's about 64,000 US. And I have to say, the black suits that car so well. I don't know what it is about a black 356, but it looks so much cooler in black, especially with the red interior. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think there's probably it was going to be almost like a suggestion for a topic unto its own, but it's sort of like Ruby Stone Red is your kind of classic 964 kind of color. There's colours that sort of match particular eras of cars, and I know it's probably because they were launched in that colour or whatever else, but just some things kind of go like it is like period correct.
Yeah, true.
It's like that jade green for Boxsters and 996s, I think it was.
Yeah.
Not my favourite colour, but there's just something kind of right about it.
You're right. Yeah, it's like the Ruby Stone Red, obviously, the colour of PorscheCooled. That's a great colour. And the girl... Turbo Kyoko, I don't know if that's her name, on Instagram. She's got the 80s Cassis Red 911. Cassis Red is a great color. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could drive it, but I think it's a great looking color. And I remember they did that color I saw a 928 in that color. There was a 928 once for sale in that color in Australia, which was, but in the Carrera, in those 80s Carreras, G Series, is it? They look fantastic, that colour.
Never seen that colour in real life.
Huh?
Yeah. I've never seen Cassis in real life. So all those colours are so distinctive though, very interesting.
But see, I really like Cloud Crayon, and you're not a big fan, are you? I think of the modern colours. I think that's the one that harks back to the old Porsche colours like Fashion Grey and Nardo Grey. I think crayon or chalk, wherever you are in the world, whatever they call it, I think that's so close to like an old Porsche color. I really like it, especially with black
Yeah.
wheels. When you've got the black wheels with the crayon, it works better with black wheels though. It doesn't work with platinum or silver wheels.
It's not that I don't like it. I actually really do like kind of that tone of car. Like I think Audi sort of did Dolphin Grey, maybe a couple of years ago. I really like the tone of it. It's just one of those things where I kind of go, because it's potentially a fashionable colour, that in another 5 years' time, you'll kind of go, you picked that colour because it was the fashion of, 2019 or 2020 sort of thing. So it'll kind of date the car.
But doesn't that give it more
Timeless?
classic and enthusiast status in years to come, because it is that sort of colour, like all those old colours, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. I know, and I do know what you mean, but kind of go the other way. All those sort of really loud colours in like the 90s, like Ruby Stone, and there was that sort of funny green that was sort of turquoisey, or mint green.
Yeah.
Who in the right mind would kind of order that sort of colour? But now it's kind of cool as all hell sort of thing. So it would have taken really big nuts like to kind of order that colour back in the day. Whereas I'd argue that it wouldn't take really big nuts to kind of order like chalk or crayon right now. So do you see what I mean? Like it's not as individual.
It'd be interesting, actually. I don't know if there's numbers, but it would be interesting to see how many people did order Ruby Stone Red and Cassius Red or whatever it is. Those sort of colours. Be interesting, because you're probably right. There are probably not that many of them. You know what I mean?
No, particularly not in this day and age. Like,
but Matt
everything is white, silver, or black.
Matt Farah's Carrera that he converted to the
It's Cassis. Yeah,
that was Cassis as well, wasn't it?
And he talked about the fact that he was going to have it resprayed, and then everybody told him not to. So he stuck with it, and now he's kind of happy that he didn't.
I actually like the colour. I do like the colour.
Yep.
Anyway, we got just
Agreed.
Where do we go? We're going on tangents here. Okay, so that's a 912 story. 356 in black. That's the 912 story. I'm still looking. I haven't given up. But then again, as Steve said, I should just buy a GT3, which I haven't given up on either. So something will happen. Maybe I'll just end up buying a 991.1 Carrera S with PDK, and then everyone will go, "What did you do that for?"
Don't do it. I've not driven one.
There's some good ones for sale.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a fantastic car, but I think it would be just different. I suspect it's not for you. Sounds like it wouldn't be interesting enough, not engaging enough.
I just got an email through then that my Porsche parts that I had done covered in leather have actually now only just been sent. So
all right, well,
that's not good, is it? It took so long. The other thing I want to talk about, and Steve didn't think this was that important, so I want to hear Steve's opinion on this. The Taycan. I read on Rob Report that the Taycan has outsold the 911 in the US. I thought that was quite groundbreaking, because I thought, well, that's showing that people are kind of grasping the electric Porsche concept. And what impact will that have on 911 sales if the Taycan's done this well? Will the 911 hybrid or electric, when they eventually bring it out, whether it be 992 or the next generation?
Oh, is that what he's saying?
Yeah. Will it actually sell more than what the 911 does now? But this article, just to touch on this article, it made the point that Taycan is the third highest selling vehicle. This is in the US, by the way. Obviously, the Macan and Cayenne are selling more, but the Taycan has become Porsche's highest selling sports car. Now, the one thing that I thought was odd in this article is, one, I didn't realize that the category of the Taycan wasn't called a sports car. I know that when the guy from Porsche was talking, he said we made the Taycan shorter, the wheelbase shorter and a bit smaller than the Panamera, because we didn't want it to compete with the Panamera, and we didn't want it in the same class as the Panamera. That was the idea of it, but I didn't realize that the Taycan would be called a sports car. So it's interesting
Are you sure that's not just the journalist that's kind of written the thing? Because I've listened to many podcasts where people have kind of gone, they kind of want to, because it's a Porsche, obviously they're sort of saying that it's like a very sporty kind of car, but to literally kind of define it as a sports car is actually an overpromise, and it's not a sports car.
Right. Because the heading was, that it outsells the 911. But apparently they sold 1,858 Taycans between July and September, which is in the middle of COVID, right? And the 911 sold 1,567 units. And that is over all of the 15 of the models' different variants. You know, when you think you've got the Taycan, you've got the 4S, you've got the Turbo, and you've got the Turbo S, right? There's no base Taycan at the moment. I think it's coming.
Yep.
So you've got 3 variants in the Taycan, which still outsold the 911. And I guess the Taycan will be something that, you know, you think the sales will be good because obviously there's a lot of orders. I think...
Plus it's the latest and greatest.
And it's the latest and greatest, yeah. And people that just want to have the first of and the latest and greatest.
Exactly. Look at all the Teslas out there. Like there's so many Teslas and they're not cheap cars. So people have got money to burn in that sort of segment. So it doesn't surprise me that the numbers, like I actually would have thought that a Taycan would outsell a 911 in sheer numbers, but I don't think that necessarily kind of spells doom and gloom for the future of 911s.
I didn't think so. I didn't think it would outsell it. But I'm just wondering the fall-on effect when they bring out will that 911 hybrid electric, will sales go crazy for Porsche when they do that? See, I would think no, because I wouldn't want to buy an electric 911. At the moment, I don't want to buy an electric 911. I would buy a Taycan, a 4-door car, but I don't want an electric 911. The other thing it said too is that, what else did it say? It said that, basically the Taycan sales were 12% of sales for Porsche US during that third quarter of 2020. So quite successful, huh? Quite successful.
Yeah. Well, it's the future of cars, obviously. So it's a good thing. Like it's not I don't think there's the same kind of uproar. Like it's not like when Porsche announced that it was going to release an SUV and all the purists kind of were up in arms. But now everybody realizes that it was good for the company because it meant that, it was profitable. So they could kind of develop all the cars we love. And then, to be honest, all the SUVs, a Porsche SUV was as good, if not better, than most of the other SUVs as well. So they kind of proved their engineering chops.
No doubt when the Macan electric comes out, it's going to be very popular. The next generation of Macan, I think it will go really well. Yeah,
I was listening to, I can't remember what it was. Somebody was speculating that that maybe they'd make the Cayman like all electric. So they'd sort of sell like your normal kind of 4 or 6 cylinder Cayman, and then they would release alongside it an electric Cayman.
Oh, okay.
And it would be interesting to kind of see how the numbers kind of stack up on that. Like maybe it might be a bit less confronting for purists and everything if they kind of took the Cayman and made that electric first, like purely
That'd be a good idea. Then they're sort of testing the ground as well. That will upset people though, because people love the petrol, the mid-engine feel of that car, right? They say it's like an old sort of Porsche.
Yeah, but if the Cayman, like the petrol, like the internal combustion engine Cayman still existed, but there was the option to kind of have the EV version of it. Right. I guess you just use it as, like your first crack at it and, just sort of see if it works.
It's not a bad idea. I have to say that the thing about batteries, right, about battery-powered vehicles or battery-powered anything, is that I've been watching on Apple Plus, Ewan McGregor, Charlie Borman on their new motorcycle adventure. They're on Apple Plus now with all the old series. And I watched the old ones, so, I kind of thought, I'll watch the new one. I don't think it's that great, but it's interesting they're using Harley-Davidson electric motorcycles, and they're using as the backup vehicles Rimac, right? I think it's Rimac utilities. Now, the problem with the motorcycles in the first couple of episodes is they're going through South America and they're in cold climates. The batteries can't charge. They can't charge the batteries because it's too cold. The batteries have the operating temperature of minus to plus. So they were struggling. They had to bring it indoors, make sure it's a heated room to get the battery to actually take the charge. And obviously the battery life is not that great because of the fact that, because of the temperatures. So I don't know. How do they do this when they test cars? They always test cars in deserts and they leave them out in deserts, or they take them to extreme cold temperatures when you see them doing their final testing. How is that covered in a battery operated vehicle? If you're in a really, really cold climate, how is it going to function? This is what, I don't know if I've read anything or seen anything about this, Steve. Even in Europe, like when you live in Austria and you've got an electric Taycan, how's the battery charging going to work if it's that cold? They just guess that people are going to charge their car in a garage?
Surely they've tested all that sort of stuff.
But it was interesting to watch with these motorcycles, these Harley Davidson motorcycles, which were like prototypes that they gave them. You know, they developed them for the show. And obviously great for Harley Davidson.
Product placement.
Yeah, but great for Harley Davidson because they get all the testing data, right? And I think the Rimac, pretty sure it's Rimac, the Rimac utility or service trucks they've got, you can see it's all set up. They're obviously collecting data as well. Do you know what I mean? So they get to use these and the companies can work out how they perform. But battery life is still a bit weird to me. I still don't understand how it works in really cold temperatures because I don't think battery technology has developed that much, has it?
Yeah, funny. I was listening to something else that was talking about, or maybe it was the same podcast or article. They were just speculating that electric cars at the moment are as kind of good as they can get, and at the moment, like, it's limited by the battery technology. So, until they sort of make like proper big progress with the batteries, the cars themselves, you know, like may not advance as quickly as they could do, and clearly it will, because that's surely if anybody's investing money in anything, it'll be in kind of that part of the automotive industry in terms of batteries and that sort of technology. But
I mean, I like being an early adopter. You know, we like to have things when they come out. But when it comes to an electric car, I think I just want to wait a bit longer just to see what happens, you know?
Yeah, it just sounds like, particularly in Sydney, same problem. Not that I know that many people, well, I don't know that many people at all that have electric cars, but I'd assume that our charging infrastructure would be worse than London or LA and stuff.
That's the problem with Australia, the infrastructure. At least the UK is really well set up. I mean, Tesla superchargers. Hey, I just saw something earlier. We'll just get onto the 997 in a second, but I saw something earlier on one of the news things on Apple News that someone on a Tesla website or Tesla blog, that someone was driving their Tesla Model 3 or Model S. You know how they have the glass roof?
Yep.
Apparently the roof just came off.
Fell out? Yikes.
Came off. Like the glue gave way or something. I don't know if the story's true. I just read it and I thought, man, Tesla, you know, they seem to sell a lot of cars with their quality control. And then you see those videos on YouTube where the gap is like this much on one side, you know, an inch or 2.5 centimeters on one side, and the other side is like half of that. Like, it's so inconsistent, you know? I don't know if I could do it. I think it would bug me too much. At that much money, if it had that many, I know the technology is supposed to be fantastic, but if the quality is shit, I couldn't live with it, Steve. I couldn't do it.
It's just different. It sounds like a different mindset. Like, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but just sounds very disposable, which kind of is okay when it's a phone. Like, even when you consider, like, you know, the latest iPhone is still going to be $2,000, which is like a shitload of money. That pales in comparison to thinking about, you know, like what a EV kind of costs. And if the same mindset is that it's not going to last forever. I mean, I think that's one of the things about Porsches. Like, you just make this assumption, particularly with a 911, that, you know, this is the car that you can potentially buy and then just kind of give to your great grandkids and it'll still kind of function and all that.
Yeah, true. I was listening, to Spike's Car Radio yesterday, an older one. I'm still catching up. And it was the complaint show, I think it was the complaint show.
They're quite good, the complaint ones.
Yeah, and they were talking about car forums. You know what I mean? How car forums always attack people when you put a post up there. You know, if you don't know something,
how
could you know that if you don't own a Porsche? But I thought it was funny when they got onto the Tesla forums. It's like, don't go there. It's like some kind of religious group. It's like
a cult,
religious cult. And it's so weird that it feels like that. This is what I didn't like when we had that Tesla, when we got the Model X in London, when Tasha's father rented it and we went to the supercharger. You stand there, you feel like it's, I don't know, it's weird. There's people sleeping in their cars while it's charging. There's other people going to the cafeteria where it's set up, and there's other people like talking to each other. It's very weird. It feels like, it's not like, you know, when you go to the petrol station, you fill up, you just want to get out. Now you have to actually stand there and talk to people if
socialize a bit.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to do it quickly, you know?
Not my forte.
Yeah, I know. It's not quick enough. The other thing, okay, that's about it, I think. The other thing we're going to talk about is, Steve and I were chatting about this again, and what are we calling it, Steve? The perfect 997 spec. Is that what we're calling it? Yeah,
we were just chatting about the original available kind of options from the factory. Because, like, you know, you bought a second-hand, as did I, 997. Never had the opportunity to kind of order a car from scratch. obviously these days when you kind of look at 991s and 992s, maybe particularly because of the exclusive program, sounds like you could kind of order the weirdest, wackiest things. So I'd never looked into what were available options from the factory in 997, so we were just sort of digging around with that.
Yeah, and because, everyone knows, all our listeners know that Steve and I love the 997. There's other people out there who have left the 997 Brotherhood. They've moved on to 991 PDKs. Not mentioning any names. But, each to their own. We're sticking with the 997 for now. But in 2004, 2005, Steve, when the 997 1.1 came out, is that compared to today where it's so easy, let's be honest, you go to a configurator, you can see the render, you can see it in 3D, you can even get an app now and see it in your driveway with the Porsche AR app or whatever it's called. You've got all these tools. And not that long ago, you didn't have the tools, right? If you were buying a 997, as per when I bought my, Audi that time when I bought it from spec and ordered it as I wanted it, and it came in 3 months later. You didn't have that visual reference. All you had was the catalogs. You never really knew what were all the options. I don't think the dealers ever showed you all the options, really. I know with Audi, I'm sure they didn't.
They couldn't have, could they?
Yeah, but then today you have this thing where you have the configurator, you can do it. So, Steve found a couple of references. He found, what did you find? You found the order guide for 2009 for 997.2. What was the other thing you found? The GT?
It was a brochure. It's something I had on file because I just kind of collect that stuff, which was the official brochure for the 0.1 GT3 and GT3 RS.
Okay.
And I was just fishing around to sort of see, like, for example, like if I could kind of go and buy a brand new 997 GT3 or RS, what were the actual kind of options? Like, were there kind of the wacky things? Because, for example, I sent you a thing I saw on Instagram that Jeff Cheran in the States had color matched fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
Like he's got a collection of different kind of greens, like an oak green and a different kind of green, speedster, etc.
Where do they come from?
His fire extinguisher.
Where do they come from?
I thought they were factory. I just assumed they were factory.
They are factory because they look really cool. They look really, really
I
cool.
I don't know if they're factory or not, but I've just assumed that these days you could pretty much order, if you've got enough money, you can order anything that you kind of want. But back in 997, when 997s were brand new, I guess the exclusive program was probably nowhere near as prolific, and I don't think the options list, if there was such a thing as a configurator, is clearly not as extensive as well.
I think the dealers, and I'm basing this on that thing I watched with Magnus Walker with the head of exclusive options. I think dealers had things that could be exclusive option, like what they call exclusive option now. Then there was that other thing, if you wanted something done outside of that, Porsche had to approve it, which I still think they do today, which is CXX, isn't it? Isn't it called CXX program? And they call it some German name, which I can't remember off the top of my head. It was some German name, and that was like above exclusive option, which were things they don't normally do, but they might do for you if they think it's in keeping with the design of the car. But I think what Steve said, like I don't know anyone who bought a 997 new. You know what I mean? I don't know anyone that spec'd it out to the exact way they want it. And I think even 15 years ago, were people optioning their cars that much? I don't know if they were. Do you know what I mean? And I think back to the Audi, I think most people that are buying options, they might say, okay, add the navigation in and add the xenon lights, just say for an Audi. But they might not add all the other little things, some of the things that when I bought mine, I added into it. Do you know what I mean? And I think the 997 is probably true. I think there's key things that people would have bought, like sports exhaust, color obviously is an option, but color is just a general option. Navigation, I think came with navigation. You could get an add-on to the navigation. But I don't know, because you see a lot of the 911s and leather, full leather. Yes. But you see a lot of the 997s for sale, and most of them aren't well optioned, are they? Not really. I know in Australia they're not. And even the ones I see in the UK, not really. Not really. But
and so that sort of made me kind of wonder whether or not there actually were like interesting kind of options to be had. And I guess maybe there wasn't. I'll give you a different example. I think we spoke about it on text. There was a black GT3, 97.1 GT3. I think it actually popped back up at, maybe it's at Autohouse actually. But it was specified with a black painted console trim, so where the PCM is in front of it, yeah. And I'd never seen that as an option before, but in the ad, the original ad, it was noted as being a factory option, and I'd never seen that before. And it's like, oh, that's so cool, because I hate Volcano Grey. Yeah. I hate the Volcano Grey in my car, but I never knew that you could kind of get that out of the factory.
That must be because if you look at that spec sheet that I found on Redbook in Australia, which is redbook.com.au, which is basically like Blue Book in the US, the value site that always undervalues your car. Undervalues it by 50% usually.
Maybe it should be Brown Book.
Yeah, when you look at the specs on that, there's nothing about the black painted. Yeah. And you're right, when you showed that to me originally, that listing, it was like, who wouldn't option that? You know what I mean? If you didn't, who would want the Volcano Grey if you could do that? It must have been like a CXX option or one of the really special options, because it's not on the normal options list, but maybe it was Porsche exclusive at the time. Maybe it was there and people just didn't know about it. Because I think at that time, because now the configurator it'll tell you it's exclusive manufacturer, right? It'll tell you that that's the option you're getting. But you're at the mercy of the dealer, right? You're at the mercy of the guy taking your order back in 2005 or 2004 or whatever you bought your 997.1 or 2009 in 997.2. You're at the mercy of the dealer telling you what these options are, because how could you find it out otherwise, unless you contact Porsche directly? Yeah, and like
obviously then like different tangent to that conversation, like use the black painted trim as an example. You could probably kind of, if you were aware of it, you go and spec that, you tick a box on your kind of list when you're buying your brand new car, and no doubt they're charging you thousands for that. But on the other hand, you could take it to your really good paint shop or go to Bumper Plugs in the States and get that painted for like a couple $100. So it's just a funny one. I didn't realize that some of those things were available out of the factory.
So that is just basically black, gloss painted, is it?
In the pictures, it looks like that. Yeah.
What colour's the car though? Black.
Yes.
So is it? And he definitely said it was from factory, right? It was a factory option.
Originally, like this car got sold, I think, a couple of months ago, and then it's back on the market. And I think it might be at Autohouse again.
So I wonder, because the 997, obviously, I think the 997, right? You could get the whole center console painted in body color. I think that was an option.
You're talking about the thing down near your elbow around the gear shift and the handbrake, yes.
The full console, or the whole console.
But I'm talking about the plastic surrounds that kind of go around the climate control on the stereo and all that sort of stuff.
I understand. But that console painted was, I think, an option. It was a common option that was listed.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, it's listed, right?
Yes, it is.
So that means
it's a
the PCM...
$1,490 option, according to your Brown Book website.
See, that was a lot, wasn't it? That was actually quite a lot when you think about it.
$1,490? Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, Steve and I are looking at the Redbook. You can go and have a look at it. You just go to redbook.com.au and you put in 06911 Carrera manual, and it comes up with all the original options. And it actually has prices in Australian dollars. I want to get onto the GT3 thing that Steve has as well, but some of the options, I mean, you could have got a carbon fiber dashboard.
Where's that?
That's the third one, and it's like 6,000. And it says, if you hover over it, Steve, it says leather trimmed air vents, carbon fiber interior inserts. So that was actually an option, a carbon fiber dashboard. You hover, it gives you what was in it.
I know what that is. Remember I sent you a link from that Wrecker and eBay? That's actually the kind of the vents are in carbon, and the horizontal kind of bits in the vents itself are kind of trimmed in leather. Right. That's what that is.
Right. I mean, but
like and for $6,000, that's crazy.
It's a lot of money. I mean, there's a list here. I mean, how many items are on this list? I don't really want to count them. There's 50 more?
I don't know.
60 or something, different options.
Something like that.
I mean, there's the basic ones that you could have ordered, like floor mats, park assist system, which mine has. Mine has the factory one. Steve's doesn't. Sports.
You can't get a GT3 with park assist.
Sports. Steve has a GT3 with park assist. What are you doing? It's a race car.
Yeah. I'm trying not to curb my wheels.
Sports suspension, stainless steel tailpipes, all the normal sort of things that you see today. The seat rest, back of the seat in leather, tire pressure monitoring. See, none of mine. I go through all these options. I mean, mine doesn't have hardly any. They have the short throw, so you've got the short shifter, which is 1,590 Australian dollars at the time, which seems like very expensive considering I bought my short shifter for what, 300 quid? The 997 one, and that's a factory one. That was 300 quid, and originally they were selling it for 1,600 Aussie dollars. So that's basically 2.5 times the price. I guess that's fitted. So say mine was 1,000, but it's still 50% more. You can still get you could have got the carbon fiber scuff plates.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, if I was speccing my 997 from this, I would. I reckon that I would only pick the leather interior. Not in two-tone, not in special, just the normal leather interior. I think I would pick a leather interior. And that is, at the time, it was leather gear knob, leather handbrake lever, leather inserts indoors, leather seats, leather steering wheel, whole dash covered, and center console. So basically what Nick has in his Carrera 4S. And that's priced at 13, this is on a 997.1. That's priced at basically 13,000 Australian dollars for that option, which is a lot. It seems a lot more than what it is now. Do you know what I mean?
That's colour to sample?
Colour to sample, yeah. Maybe it's not colour to sample.
That's different. I don't think
they've got special colour. Maybe it's special colour, which is 8,000. Yeah. So it's 8,000 to 13,000 for the leather. I probably would have got Sports Chrono if I was doing it, which was $2,100.
I wouldn't on a GT3. That's actually one that I've got in my car and it's completely pointless. Yep.
Sports suspension, I'd probably get that. Is that PS PASM? Is that basically PASM? Yep. Is that what they're saying?
Yep.
So sports suspension is about 4,500 Australian dollars. It doesn't say PASM though, it just says sports suspension.
Yeah, in the later cars, that's sort of where it was spec'd with shorter springs and stuff like that. So I'm not sure on a 997.
Then it has things, I'm not going to go through all of these. Coloured seatbelts, I would have opted for coloured seatbelts. I probably would have got red or yellow in my silver. One of the two colours, red or yellow seatbelts.
I would too. I'd go red. Yep.
Park assist system mine has. That was a $1,600 option. So that was good. Mine had that. Porsche mats. Floor mats in any car when you're configuring, I think are just a no-brainer. You just get floor mats.
It's crazy that it's $790 though.
$790. And you got replacement floor mats for your car recently. There wasn't 790 Australian dollars, was it?
I did. I think it was generally when I get a new to me car, I generally go and buy a new set of floor mats because it just sort of makes it much nicer. I remember doing that in the GT3 and I didn't pay $790 and I did go to the dealership and then I do my usual kind of thing and just kind of scour eBay, Gumtree, all those sorts of places, and eventually somebody kind of sells you a set for like a few $100s tops and they're in really good condition.
Dealership is good if you remember.
My tip for floor mats is to kind of get Lloyd's mats out of the States. Yeah,
I was going to say Lloyd mats is the one. Like I said, I want to get that back shelf one. We've been talking about it for a while. That is something I will.
Yeah, problem with Lloyd's mats though is they're very sketchy and indecisive about whether they want to make right-hand drive mats for you or not. Like I've successfully done it many times on the 993, and then I tried to do it on the 997, and they wouldn't do it. So
I thought they listed it on the website. I know they have a whole configurator on Lloyd's. I went to one place where they had a Lloyd's configurator, and you could configure it all, and it has said right-hand drive. Maybe it's changed.
Yeah. I always used to order them through the Fister Motorsports guys.
Yeah.
And they'd always try to wrangle it for me, but they just couldn't get 997 mats happening.
The thing about buying parts from Porsche dealers, I have to say, and the one thing I remember when I was there at Christmas and I went into Porsche South Sydney to buy some part, and I can't remember what it was, Steve. I had to go and buy something, and there was a guy in there, an older guy, who had a 70s 911, and he was waiting. I was getting served before him, and I said, here's my Porsche Club membership, to get discount. And then the guy went away, the guy that served me at the parts centre there, and the guy who owns a 7911, he said, do you get discount for Porsche Club? I said, yeah. He said, I've been buying so many things and I didn't know that. It's like, how many other people, like it's a worthwhile discount, right? It's 10% discount. So sometimes in Australia, it makes a difference to, buying something online from overseas and paying for the shipping and waiting, and just buying it from Porsche South Sydney, especially little pieces, like the fuel tank filler thing that I bought, a hinge that I bought. You know what I mean? It's pointless getting it ordered.
Did you buy that in the end?
Yeah, I bought it. Haven't fitted it though. I bought it.
Yeah, I saw a part of on eBay. I can't remember how much it was.
Because they said mine was cracked, but I still couldn't find the crack. It didn't cost me very much. I think it was like $10 or something. $15.
They said the same about mine, and I could not be asked.
I don't know why they were checking that, honestly. Seriously, you're going to check so many little things. What else on this option list? You know what? There's not a lot more. I might have gone for carbon fiber, maybe. I don't know back then. Maybe I would have done carbon fiber, like the sills in carbon fiber. Or the aluminium, the stainless steel sills I would have done. What else?
Depends on the color of your car.
True. Colored dials.
Colored dials I can't stand. I'll put it out there. It's very subjective, but colored dials and colored sports chrono dial is not my thing.
Yep. And then you've got, paint color to sample, almost 10,000 Australian dollars, or paint special exterior color. God knows what that was. And wheels painted in body color. That's the one I found quite weird. That they actually, because I know that's an option on the new configurator, right? Where you can make your 911 pretty much as ugly as you want.
Yep.
But wheels in body color was still available as an option on a 997 or a Porsche 911 back in 2005 for $3,000, almost $2,900 Australian.
Here's one for you. Like, imagine if I painted my GT3 wheels white. What would you think about that to match the color of my car?
The outside of your wheel?
Yeah.
Or the outside of the wheel. It's weird, because when you see that 959, the 959 with the white painted wheels.
Yep.
Have you seen that one? The iconic.
I think I have, yep.
It looks pretty cool. I have to say it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a bit of a test. I was wondering, like, I kind of go, white wheels, you're kidding, man. Like, that would look terrible. But then you think about the greatest 911 of all time, the RS 4.0, and it was white and quite often came with white wheels, and probably everybody thinks it's like the coolest thing in the world.
I guess if you have two sets of GT3 wheels, don't you? You have a spare set.
I do.
So you have the ones, Steve has the ones on his car. Just tell the listeners what you've got, Steve.
So the ones that came on the car when I bought it have the silver outer rim. It's painted, not cut, and then the black, the sort of spokes are black. So it looks like the old style Fuchs wheel. That's one set, and that's on the car at the moment. And then I've got another set which are painted Weiss gold, the sort of champagne-y kind of light gold colour.
Yeah, and the black
cars
were from the factory option. That's how they came with your car, right? That was spec'd with that.
And on my car, Weiss gold was never an option. It's a factory colour, but it was it's a 997.2 GT3 RS wheel colour.
Yeah, it's a great colour. It really is a good colour, the Weiss gold. I'm just wondering, though, if you painted it white, I mean, I think it's a great experiment. I think it's something that would be great to do.
I wouldn't do it. I wasn't serious.
No, but I'm just saying, maybe you need to do it just
heinous,
to test.
but
Maybe you should do it. Maybe you should just get one painted white and then put it on your car and see if you like it.
Could do.
You know, you could even do, if you want, that thing that you really like on the new 991s where you have the black pinstripe around the outside of it.
Oh, can't stand that as well. But yeah, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes white wheels look cool on different coloured cars. Like, I think red cars with white wheels, like in some sort of motorsport circles, are kind of cool. But white car with white wheels.
I watched that guy on YouTube that's got the Bugatti. He just put a Bugatti Veyron and he just put white wheels on it. And honestly, it looks hideous. I just think it looks hideous. I mean, the 959, I understand. Like, you see the 959, it looks cool. I saw the picture even yesterday on Instagram, and it does look very, very cool. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I mean, I think the interesting thing about this option list, and I might put these documents, the one that you sent me, Steve, the two that you sent me, and I might PDF this one from Redbook, and I'll put them on Patreon for members to look at if they want to look at it. Mm-hmm. So it's there. But you know what? I think, even this wheel center cap with logo, they're saying it's 490 Australian dollars. Now, I bought those center caps, and I think they cost me 200 odd in the UK. 300 maybe Australian dollars in the UK. So it's weird that all these prices at option at launch are very high compared to the part now. The parts have actually, we think OEM parts are expensive, but some of these launch prices seem a lot more expensive than what they're selling for at this point in time. Even the door sills,
right.
Steve. Even the door sills. The door sills are 1,090 Australian dollars. Actually, that's cheap. That's the leather trim door sills. So that must be the inner door sills that we just did. So that's pretty much what. That's almost like what Linas charged me for mine. Actually,
is there any chance that this Red Book price list is not accurate?
Don't know. I mean, I guess they've sourced it from somewhere. I mean, it's been up for ages. I remember looking at this before I bought my 997 and seeing all these things. But I guess the main thing is, with the 997, most 997 owners add parts to their car, get mods, whether it be get the leather parts covered, whether they get new seals. And I think that's the beauty of Porsche and the beauty of the 997. There's so many people out there, whether it be OEM or non-OEM, artisans that do leather parts, wherever you are in the world, there's always someone that's working on it, and you can make your car unique. And, you're not really at a disadvantage that you didn't spec the car new. And in fact, the 997 is quite easy to make it look better. Like I said before, the only thing that I always find the most difficult thing is if you want a leather interior, things like the dash and stuff, they can be done. They become very expensive. Those sort of things, obviously, it would have been good to spec a car from new and get those things logged in. Like you said earlier, Steve, you said you wouldn't have spec'd a Porsche sports exhaust. You would just do an aftermarket one, which I thought was interesting. You know what I mean? Because if I look for a car now, I think, it should have a PSC. If I was buying a 991, it should have PSC. Why
do you say that? Because yours didn't.
Yeah, I don't know, because I know to get that switchable exhaust system, it never looks like factory. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't always seem...
But
you have like a push button thing that people have, and things like that. And I don't know, getting the exhaust to sound right as well. I
suppose these days, for example, you can obviously buy like a off-the-shelf a Kropovich or whatever exhaust, and it's got the valves in it, and you can switch them on and off. So and that's the reason why I kind of go, well, I wouldn't necessarily kind of hanker for that option if I was buying a brand new 997. It's the cost though,
isn't it? I mean, to fit a full switchable exhaust is a lot of hours. It's a lot of work.
Yep.
What about the GT3 brochure?
The GT3 options?
They didn't have many, did they?
No, because obviously it's a very sort of specific car. You're pretty much in the territory of, is it a club sport package or a non-club sport? And I think it's probably, I'll speak for myself, a bit of a no-brainer to kind of go for a club sport package, which then includes the roll cage, the carbon-backed bucket, fixed back bucket seats, fire extinguisher and the harness, like driver side racing harness. So I would have thought that that's a worthwhile thing.
Steve, did you have to get the seats in the fire retardant material, or could you option them in Alcantara?
Yeah, that's a funny one, because when you kind of flick through all this material, it always describes it as being in the Perlon, the fire retardant sort of things. Right. But clearly it came with leather and the Alcantara, or either leather with the leather insert or leather with an Alcantara insert. But just on the stuff that we're kind of looking through, I haven't seen it noted as an option.
Yeah, because I'm even looking at these colours, the colours for the 911 GT3, not for the GT3 RS in this brochure.
Yeah.
And this is 997.1, right, this brochure?
Yes.
Yeah, 997.1. And it's got, solid exterior colours, which is what you have, Carrera white. Then it has metallic silver colours.
Carrara white.
Carrara white, sorry. Read that wrong. And special exterior colours. And this is an interesting one. Slate grey metallic. I did not realise that slate grey was a colour you could have optioned the GT3 in. Because slate grey is the old 911 colour, right? Slate grey is one of those old colours, which was a flat...
slate grey was...
Flat colour.
I know that was a... Oh, no, I don't think so.
It used to be a flat colour, Porsche flat colour. Now it was offered as a metallic colour.
Maybe it's just maybe they've reused the name, I don't know. I know it was a colour that was popular in 993s, and I think previously maybe even on 964s.
But even if you look at this, and I don't know if you have that other reference material, the colours that was sold in Australia for the 997, but I don't think I've ever seen any slate grey metallic. There's another colour called pine green metallic, which I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I've seen lapis blue metallic GT3s, I think. GT Silver, of course. Carmine Red spelt CARMON, not Carmine Red. It's Carmine Red. I don't think I've ever seen that.
So this
dark grey
thing that
in a
you're
GT3.
looking at is the UK brochure as well, not Australian.
Oh, okay. Okay, so maybe there weren't colours that were available in Australia, but there's some interesting colours there you could have spec'd. Like that actually is quite nice in the GT3 if you would have spec'd it from new. You know what I mean? Here's the thing. Your car has steel brakes. If you were speccing a 997 in the day, GT3,
yes,
would you spec the ceramic?
I reckon, very hard to say. Yes, I reckon I would. Like, if money was no object and all that sort of stuff, even purely for pose value to kind of have the yellow calipers and all that sort of stuff, probably. But admittedly, you know, like, I think I'm influenced by that podcast where Andy Preuninger got on Spike Ferris.
I know, that's in my head too. And every time I see
things, and he sort of said, like, one of the must-have kind of options is the ceramics. So, I know for sure that I would never kind of use it to its full capability, etc. But I guess if Andy Preuninger reckons that it's a worthwhile option, then who am I to argue?
Well, he was obviously referring to, you know, new GT3s or whatever. And I guess if you look back 15 years or whatever, when the GT3 or whatever, how many years it was, 15 years, ceramic brakes maybe then were a little bit scarier than what they are now. It seems more people spec them now. And also it was that cost that people were saying, you know, it's going to cost you 20 grand to get them and 20 grand to replace them or whatever. So I don't know if that's the figure. I'm just saying, like, high amounts of money.
Yeah.
It does, high amounts of money.
Still costs.
But, you know, what Steve said, that conversation with the head of Porsche GT, with AP, as they call him, on Spike's Car Radio, wasn't it? Or Matt Farah? I can't remember what it was. Spike's Car Radio.
No, Spike. Yeah.
And he made the point. Lightweight buckets. He says lightweight buckets are more comfortable than the comfort seats. He said they are more comfortable for long drives. He'd just done a 400-mile drive in it or something. I think this was the same podcast. And then ceramics. That was basically it, wasn't it? And manual. No, he wasn't keen on. He didn't say manual. He thought PDK was actually.
It depends. He said, if you're going to drive mainly on the street, go for a manual. If you're going to do a lot more track time and you care about your physical lap times, then PDK.
But obviously in the 997 it wasn't available, so it was just available in manual only, right? That was it, nothing else.
Yep.
But it's interesting seeing
I've
this.
never driven. Sorry, I've never driven a 997 with ceramics, and I'd actually be super keen to kind of actually have a go in one and actually see what the difference is.
Can you change your brakes to ceramics?
Yeah, you can. Easy.
Does it need any other tuning in the ECU? And nothing else has changed, right? It's just, you can just upgrade them?
I wouldn't know, but I know that you can do it quite easily. Like, people often, there's sets of used ones that come up on things like eBay all the time, but they're still heinously expensive. They're like 13, 14 grand. There's been a set sort of sitting there for ages.
Really?
And I think
you just switch them out. Switch out your steel brakes for the ceramics, because some people change their ceramics back to steel, right? So I guess you can go the other way as well. Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah.
They're no bigger though. The calipers fits in the wheel. It's no bigger or anything. There's no change, right?
No, they're all bigger. They're bigger.
All the same. Yeah.
They're bigger. The discs on the ceramic discs are 380 mil and steels are 350 mil.
So so the wheel can still accommodate that? The standard GT3 wheel obviously can accommodate the bigger discs.
Yeah.
So it fills out.
I think.
So is that what's nice about ceramics? It's not just the color; it's the fact that it's bigger, and the fact that it does fill out the wheel more. That the disc does actually fill it out more.
Yeah, I think if you weren't doing it for pose value, it's supposed to still be all about unsprung weight and all that sort of stuff. I think, but pretend it's me, and you know, like I had money to burn, like as in me today. Would I go and buy this used set of 997 ceramics and stick them on my car? Probably not, because you kind of go, the technology has progressed, so the actual kind of the hardware itself probably isn't as good as the ceramics of this day and age. So why would you go and spend 14 grand on older kind of versions of it?
Good point. But if you're looking for a 991.2 GT3 and it had ceramics, it definitely wouldn't turn you off. You'd still buy them. I wouldn't.
Then for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Yes, for sure.
And I think you'd probably almost try and search out one with it because it just adds to the whole thing. If you're going to keep that car for a while, you would actually take the ceramics.
Yeah, look, I guess if you're kind of shopping for a $300,000 car, like hell, throw the extra kind of 10, 15 or whatever it is and just do it, right?
True. But anyway, it's, I thought it was interesting looking back at the old specs and seeing what you could get for the money. And how you can still make your car, spec the way you want now. I mean, we all, we're still adding things. You're adding things. I'm adding things. Some things in keeping with the option list. Some things that were never available on the option list, like your wood shifter, for example. There's still things you can add to make your 997 pretty special.
I was interested though, because it is nowhere near as sort of personalized. Like the options aren't as specific or personalized as they probably are these days. So a bit of a sign of the times kind of thing.
I mean, the configurator, if you're bored and you want to go onto it, I mean, I go onto it every now and again and just build things. I mean, I find it quite interesting. I'm always surprised by the price, though, that what it adds up, how you can get options up to 60,000 Australian dollars in options for a 992 Carrera, 992 Carrera S. It's like crazy amount of money you could go. And I guess it comes down to the point is, how much do you really need? You know what I mean? You can have all these options and you can have all these electronic things, and half the time, do you really need them? You know what I mean? I mean, I get in my 997 and you get into your GT3. I don't, half the time I don't have the music on. I never really listen to music in the car. I just listen to the car. You know what I mean? And I don't really want anything. And the thing that I like the interior to look good. It would have been good to have, still might have been nice to have the PSE, but I'm happy with the Vista. The one thing that I wish I did have is it was spec with xenons and not just the normal lights, because the normal lights are a bit weak. They are very weak. And I'm going to rectify that with the bulbs that I bought, 2 years ago that I never fitted. But I will put those bulbs in that everyone was talking about, which were good. So, because I have a couple of sets of those, so I'll put them in when I get back to Sydney. So that's my, it can still be solved basically.
Well, for what it's worth with my car, like after just finding all this stuff and then just looking through it, it kind of made me realise that the car that I bought is pretty close to the way that I probably would have ideally spec'd it had I had the option.
Good point, actually.
I would have ditched Sports Chrono. My car came with the full red taillights, which I don't really like, so I kind of swapped them over, but that was an easy fix. Car came with a whole bunch of carbon, which I quite like. It came with the tyre pressure monitors, which I actually quite like. I know a lot of people on Renlist don't, but I find it handy.
I wish I had those. Actually.
And the xenons, like you sort of said, the xenons are good. So
no, I have to admit, out of our both, I mean, your car was a really good spec. I mean, you were fortunate to find that car in Australia.
Lucky,
that spec is a really good spec. I love the wheels, the black and the silver wheels. I think the wheels look great, and I like them better than just all silver. And then the leather interior just adds to it. The pearl-on seats, I didn't have a problem with it, but now when you said you were going to change them and then you've changed them to the Alcantara leather, obviously they do look a lot better. It looks a lot more richer inside the cabin. But there was nothing wrong with the pearl-on. It was okay.
Nothing wrong with pearl-on. It's just interesting. It's interesting because they've seemed to become very sought after because they've kind of got that motorsport heritage. But in terms of the feel of the fabric and everything, it's actually just not as nice. But again, I guess you're probably not thinking about that if you're kind of if you're tracking your car and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to just driving around the streets.
Yeah, true. All right, Steve. Anything else before we go? I think we've hit our time limit today. So we've talked about
all good.
We've talked about perfect Porsche 997 in a way. We talked about 9112 shopping my 9112, and we've talked about the Taycan, which Steve doesn't think it's that important, which it probably isn't actually.
No, it's not that surprising.
It's not that surprising. Okay, it's not that surprising. All right. We'll leave it there.
Cool, man.
All right. Thanks again, Steve. Thanks for
no worries.
Joining by Zoom. Hopefully the sound's okay today. If you haven't given us a rating on Apple Podcasts, please give us a star rating. If you have time, write us a review. And if you haven't followed us already, we're on Instagram, PorscheCooled, and we're also on Patreon, as I said before. Thanks, Steve. See you next week.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks for listening. Bye for now.